So how was that pivot? What was that pivot like? How did you get your start getting into, the sports media space? And how was it starting also as coming after, a brother like Jason who was, household name, like I said, Hall of Famer. Obviously, I grew up in South Florida Dolphins fans. He was one of my favorite players. So getting into the business, I'm sure people would look at you as Jason's little sister first, and now you're Joy Taylor. You got your own shit. So how did that start though in the beginning?
Well, I started in the business at Barry University in Miami.
Okay.
That's where I graduated from and finished school. And when I transferred there, I was in a media course, like a undergrad media course, and someone from the radio station at the school came to speak to the class and was like, "We need hosts for the student radio station. So, come by, sign up for a shift, and like you can host your own show." And I was kind of surprised, like, why do you need people to sign up? Like, this is crazy. This is a good opportunity. Yeah. Everyone should be down there trying to, get experience. So anyway, I went down and signed up and ended up being a manager at the station before I graduated. But that's where I really started, was at WBRY at the school. And that was just, nobody's listening. It's like 15 people or like whatever, if you happen to get it on your AM station while you're driving through Miami shores. But, for me, it was like, yeah, exactly. It's a live opportunity. And as you guys know, the more reps you get, the better you get. You get your mistakes out while you don't have a bigger audience. And that's really where I fell in love with radio, because I always liked the idea of being able to be a personality. And I always try to stay a little bit ahead of the trends in our business, which is always changing, and pay attention to what people are doing and where the business is going. And what I noticed in college was there weren't as many news shows anymore where it was just getting the information. There were more and more opinion shows popping up. First Take, His and Hers, PTI. Those shows were the shows that were really doing well. And similarly, in news, it was all opinion about the news. So I had never really wanted to be a reporter, but I was like, that's the lane I want to be in. Is I want to be a personality. I want to give my opinion about the news.
Yeah, I want to talk my shit.
Yeah, I don't want to have to find the news. I don't want to have to be the source. I want to react to the source, to the story. So I just started shaping my career in that way while I was still in school, because not only I knew that's what I wanted to do, but also I felt like that was the way that the business was going. And, here we are. That's what most of the business is. It's so many different ways to get stories now, and athletes now have the platforms to just put their own story out there. It's really changed a lot. So I've also never really wanted to be a reporter. The locker room, I know that's y'all thing, but I'm not trying to be up in the locker room trying to source things out. Like, people who do that I have such respect for, because it's really a grind. Like, you really have to have certain kind of relationships. And it's a completely different way of going on about the business. I have sources, but I'm more of a I know this, so that's how I'm going to form my opinion. Right. But I'm not really interested in breaking stories. So I started there, and then I started interning at WQAM in Miami, which is a sports radio station there, with Joe Rose, who's a former Miami Dolphin player. So I did that in college, and then I interned for DJ Laz, who was a morning show host. Legendary DJ in Miami.
What was that? Power 96?
Power 96.
Power 96. Okay, yeah.
So I ended up just kind of working as the morning show producer there, and got probably the most influential experience for the start of my career, because I was doing everything. I was booking guests. I was setting up events. I was doing the prep for the show. I was making sure everyone was on their schedule. I was putting stuff up on social media. I was running the show as an intern, and they just trusted me with that responsibility. But it was a great experience for me, because now I do so much of that still today, but also for my own show and for my podcast. When I was doing my podcast, like, you have to know how to put the structure of a show together. Yeah. And so it really taught me a lot about just hands-on how to do a show. And so after that, I kind of graduated in a weird time, similar to what a lot of students dealt with COVID over the past 2 years, because when I graduated, there was a hiring freeze around the whole business, because what is now iHeart was Clear Channel, and they owned the most amount of radio stations around the country, and they fired half of their workforce.
Damn,
So
was this around the recession, that 2008 collapse?
2009.
Okay, yeah, that's the same year I got drafted. And a lot of the deals that a lot of the guys were getting every year before, hey man, I'm getting a car deal, a phone deal, all that shit was put on hold after that recession.
Yeah.
So yeah, we graduated around the same time.
Yeah. So it really affected the business. So the job that I was supposed to have evaporated, and I was kind of lost for a little bit. It took me some time to really get my bearings back in the business, but after a while, I ended up getting a job at QAM where I had interned originally, because the people who I had interned for were still working there, and I did a great job of my internship, which was, what you should do.
Yeah.
And I started as a part-time producer. I think I was making like $8.50 an hour for the Sid Rosenberg show in the afternoons, like answering phones and getting coffee and copies. What assistant producers or part-time producers do, running the board occasionally. But I always made sure everyone I worked for always knew I wanted to be on air, and that was my goal. So whenever Sid could, he would bring me on air, and we'd do a little thing, and I'd save all that for my reel and then do weekend shifts and write about high school sports and cover youth sports and, freelance with whatever was going on, covering entertainment stuff and bartending on South Beach and at Stage in Miami and Design District.
I know that was man, no telling what you saw.
Man,
those days, boy.
Yeah,
memories,
but that's what I had to do. Like, Miami's an expensive place to live, and obviously I was very blessed to be able to get a job in a big market, a top 20 market out of school, not right out of school, but to get that opportunity. And yeah, they don't tell you you're not gonna make any money when you start in this, like no money when you start in this business. And most businesses don't pay well right away, but this is a tough business to break into, and you're probably gonna have to work multiple jobs. And even when you get to a certain point, I still have multiple jobs. I don't have one job. And that's something that most people in the business do, because it is a very volatile, crazy business. But that was how I started, and then worked up as a producer to a full-time producer, executive producer, and then eventually got the opportunity to host the morning show with Zaslow in Miami, which we did for a couple years. And that was really when I really began to feel comfortable as a personality and, be able to lean into my voice having that show, because one, it's radio, so it's 4 hours long.
Yep.
So you got to talk. And we just had we had a good
4 hours, and then y'all got to damn near reset every 15 minutes.
Yeah. And when you're doing local, it's different, because you really got to talk about, you can't just skip out on, hockey or, if it's a Wednesday, my Marlins game, like you got to get into it, because that's the fan base, so it was great experience. It really launched my career. And after that show, that's when I got the opportunity to come to FS1. So that's kind of an abbreviated version of it with lots of this all the way through. But it was at some point, like being Jason's sister, it was never a negative thing, because Jason, as you said, has an incredible reputation. But there are going to be people that assume that you're only there because of that, and there's people that still say like, oh, like Jason got you your job, like, okay. What am I gonna do? Like, if that's what you think, that's what you think. I can't get bothered by that anymore. But it's been a crazy experience, a long journey, but it's an amazing business to be in. I wouldn't want to do anything else. And it takes a long time. Like it takes levels. The one thing I'll say though is I really feel we're always impatient about where we are, in our career. We're like, I should be here, I should be doing this, or I should have this show or this role or whatever. And like, when I really look back on it, I've always been impatient, but every step and every job that I had prepared me for what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And like, if you really if you take the time to value where you are and like soak up those experiences, when you do get the opportunity, you'll be ready for it. And it's very cliche, but like, I didn't know
that's real though.
That being recruited for track was going to be able to help me talk about confidently, NIL and why that stuff's important, because I lived that and I took from that experience. And I didn't know that being a part-time producer was going to be able to help me produce my Saturday radio show, which I do now, and you know, be able to do everything myself, because I did that making $8 an hour. And you know, you sit there like, damn, this is what I'm doing, but like, yes, this is what you're doing, because this is what you're qualified to do right now. Like,
and whatever role that is, whatever role you got to be fully invested, bought in. That, like you said, that's life in general. That's sports, that's teams. Sometimes you might be that guy who's you just gonna be a gunner, or you're gonna be a hold up guy, and then you get your opportunity, somebody get hurt, you get a couple starts under your belt and never come off the field again. So that's how it is, man. Take full advantage of every opportunity.
I got a question for you.
Treat people good on while you're there too, because you never know.
That's a fact. Yeah.
You never know who's going to be in charge of the next place, or who you're going to be working with, or whatever. And you know, sometimes it's best just keep that little opinion you got to yourself. You know what I'm saying? Vent to the homie.
Yep. That's a fact.
Your relationships is real.